Welcome to Beauty as a Birthright, a podcast that explores awakening our six senses: touch, smell, sight, hearing, taste, and intuition through embodied Daoist practices. I'm Dr. Tamsin Lee, a Daoist metaphysical expert and founder of Elemental Archetypes, sharing face reading, Batsa astrology, and seasonal living.
And I'm Dr. Paige Yang, owner of an integrative health clinic in Honolulu and founder of Yang Face, a culturally appreciative Chinese facial tool brand. Join us on our personal journeys as we navigate the complexity of inner, outer, and relational beauty. We'll chat about how awakening our beauty through the six senses impacts our relationship to aging, childhood trauma, romantic relationships, motherhood, dating, careers, and so much more.
Let's awaken our senses and explore beauty as a birthright.
So we introduced this concept of second spring, which always sounds so nice. And when I talk about it with my patients, they love to hear it.
Yeah.
I mentioned to you, I've been seeing a lot of perimenopausal, menopausal patients. So let's kind of introduce this term to our listeners who might not be in the field or have an acupuncturist. Let's talk them through it, what the second spring means when we say this.
Yeah. So I think you would do a really great job sharing it more about how it shows physiologically and what's going on in our body. And then I can share more about the metaphysics. But, the first spring happens when we have our menarche, our first period, people with uterus. Mm-hmm. And then so the second spring is known as menopause. And I love just the image of springtime when I think of that. So if you think of it, it's like obviously the first spring is when you start having your menstrual cycle and you're fertile. And that's the fertility that starts the first spring. And it's in Eastern culture, it's so different because Western culture sees menopause as an ending. But in Eastern culture, we see it as a beginning. That's why it's called the second spring, the second chance, the second opportunity, the second life to do it again, to do something different, maybe not even again. And so that already tells you so much about what's happening in the body, what's happening spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally. And I find that really interesting. I've been thinking more and more about why the Western culture sees it as a decline and an ending while Eastern culture sees it as a beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And I love how I just always love telling patients when they come in and they're complaining about their symptoms. So this is something you and I have probably talked about before, but a big part of this second spring is this freedom. And that's very different than the first spring. So the first spring, when you get your menses, then there's expectations that are placed on you in terms of, oh, you're fertile, when are you going to have children? And then people can see you more for, like childbearing and their expectations of you. What can you do for them? What they can get from you. And in the second spring, you have a freedom because you're no longer bound to the menstrual cycle.
Yeah.
So you're no longer expected to reproduce and have children. And traditionally, when people didn't work as long and they retired a little younger, they had, you wouldn't see them and okay, how much labor, chi, energy can I get out of this person? That's basically what you're seen for, unfortunately, as a woman when you're menstruating. And then when you are no longer menstruating, then you're free from those things, those expectations. And then you get to decide what you want to contribute to society, or if you want to just keep your energy for yourself, or you don't have that expectation anymore. And that's incredibly liberating. And, at least what I'm seeing and what I'm hoping for the both of us and what I'm seeing in my patients is I really feel like women get more and more beautiful as they age.
Are you perimenopausal?
I think I am based on symptoms, but when I have hormone testing, it doesn't really come back showing that, but my own experience.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, can you share a little bit for our listeners, what these symptoms look like? Because,
oh yeah.
And then how it may show up on a hormonal panel?
Yes. So I guess the really obvious things that people see in movies or people talk about, of course, are hot flashes, night sweats, mood swings, spontaneous sweating. It can be a change in your menstrual cycle where either you're not getting it regularly, so you're skipping a few months, or you're getting it more often. So it might be coming every 2 weeks, even for some patients, or the quality of it can be much different. So it could be you could have had a really healthy flow, and then suddenly it begins really scant and you're only spotting for a few days. You're not sure if it's a full bleed. Or it can go the other way where you might have had a light cycle and then you enter the perimenopausal phase and it becomes really heavy and really painful. Then there can be really subtle changes, like you might not be getting discharge during ovulation anymore. There may be more dryness. There's like less lubrication, so you might be getting like drier eyes. Your skin might become more dry. Your hair might feel like it's become more dull. Um, I mean, there's so many things that I can mention, and I'm trying to think. And there can also be like other things, changes in appetite. A lot of times women will experience weight gain even if they're eating the same amount. Um, their body odor can shift, where some people may have always had to wear deodorant and then they enter the perimenopausal phase and they're no longer having an odor. They're not really sweating much. Things are drying up, so they don't have to wear deodorant again. Their makeup will have to change as well, where they might need makeup that's more moisturizing. Um, yeah, I mean, I could keep going, but that's kind of things that people will notice.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
what was I going to say about it's interesting because it's like, clinically, they have these like set symptoms that tell you, like, oh, you're perimenopausal, but it's like a transition. So it's not like you could say, like, if you went to the doctor, they'd be like, oh, right here, this month, that day, you started your perimenopause phase. And even menopause, it says like 1 year after of no longer having your period, you are officially in menopause. But there's no like official start and date thing that
Yeah.
happens. It's like a transition, and it's kind of like, it reminds me when I talk about astrology. It's like, it's when it's the year of the snake, it's not like this. Yes, this day is it starts the year of the snake, but it's not like all of a sudden it's like whew, some massive energetic shift, like black and white kind of shift.
Hmm.
It's this transition that happens. So I always find that interesting, that like how we define these phases and why we're so obsessed with like, when does it start, when does it end.
Hmm. No, I think that's such a great point because even when patients come in, they don't know if they should call themselves perimenopausal or menopausal or postmenopausal. Like it gets really confusing for them too. Um, and I think that you can go 7, 8, 11 months and not have a bleed
Mm-hmm.
and then get a bleed. And then it starts to be confusing. And then maybe you get it again regularly for 3, 4 months. And you're like, oh, okay, no, I guess that wasn't menopause. But I love how you kind of talked about how it's not this like defining moment that cuts off where suddenly you're this and then you're not that. Um,
I
but perimenopause, of course, is like a very long period,
mhm,
like at
yeah.
least 10 years.
Yeah, and it can happen as early as your mid 30s. And
Yeah.
and and you may not even realize it because the change is so subtle, right? And so I
Hmm.
wonder if it has something to do with, like, again, this Western concept of like, when I hit menopause, it's the ending. So I want to know, when is this ending starting and when does it end? And then there's like a lot of grief that may like come up, because like all of a
Yeah.
sudden you're useless in society, because that's how Western culture sees
Right.
it. Like, now you go hide off at the edge of the village where nobody wants to see your old shriveling self, because you remind us of death, and so you go hide there. And
Hmm.
then Eastern culture is something different. It's not, you don't
Yeah.
go hide, you like, you shine. And
Flourish.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you be careful, because like people are going to want to come to you now, like.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me, I mean, don't you feel my like observations of you? I feel like since I've known you, you've just become more and more beautiful
Thank
and
you.
like healthier and healthier and radiant, more and more radiant. But like, is that your experience of yourself? And when you say that you're perimenopausal, what have you noticed in yourself?
Um, a few things. Like, so my menstrual cycle throughout my life was never a big deal. That's why I never got into women's health. I never understood like when we learned in school like cramps and heavy bleeding and clots and fatigue and foggy head. I'm just like, I don't understand any of this because I never really experienced any of that. And so when I transitioned into perimenopause, I did get hot flashes, like maybe for like a summer and not that
Mm.
frequently. But I also was like at a weird phase in my life because I had been single for so long. And then, like, that summer, I was just meeting a lot of cute boys. And so I was like, oh my God. Like,
Yeah.
now I'm like, oh, this boy's hot. And so I thought it was like there. But also that sexual energy just came back all of a sudden. And like,
Mm.
yay me, I was meeting hot boys. So I wasn't sure. And then later I'm like, wait, is this a boy or is it like, am I getting hot flashes? And I think I actually liked it because I was like, it's such a, I don't know, I thought the feeling was really cool to have this heat just
Hmm.
rush up. And that's how my perimenopause phase, I'm still really in the beginning of it, has been. I think it's cool. It's because now when I get my periods, I do feel the cramps. I get fatigue.
Hmm.
I get insomnia. I get anxious. Like all these things I've
Hmm.
never really felt before. I'm feeling it now. So I'm like, whoa, this is so cool. And I'm at a place in my life where I work for myself. And so I can take days off. And that's what I do. I
Yeah.
block off the weeks, the days that I know I'm going to get my period. I don't have any meetings. I don't work. I don't have clinic. I don't go to the gym. And so, one, it gives me this excuse to just be lazy, which I actually need because I'm such a workaholic. And that's like a big
Hmm.
obstacle in my life. And even like working out, like I'm just like, yes, I don't have to go to the gym today because I am on my
Yeah.
period. And then I also have to think about food because I get tired. So I'm just like, okay, I got to eat red meat around these days. And I
Hmm.
crave red meat, but I can't eat a lot of it, you know? So it's actually this time of the month where I truly honor what's happening in my body. And I just sit there and like I feel the cramps, I feel the bleeding. I think it's so cool that every month it's so different depending on like how I lived that month. So if I was like really stressed out, I'll feel it. If I was
Yeah.
like really balanced and taking care of myself, I'll feel it. And I really like that I can experience that at this time because in some ways, yes, it is an ending. This thing will end. And
Hmm.
I want to enjoy this transition into this other phase of my life. And I want to be very conscious of what's going on. And so I say that with my
Yeah.
body, but I'm also doing it mentally, physically, and spiritually. And I think my beauty is coming from the fact that I'm healing a lot of like wounds that I've repressed or just not remembered. And I am
Hmm.
meeting people or situations that activate these wounds. And
Hmm.
so I think that's how my face is changing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is you're taking like the best care of yourself that you, I mean, within reason, right? Like you're just taking really good care of yourself. You're being very mindful, very intentional, knowing that like what you're doing now is going to be reflected in the cycle that's coming up.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Like, I think before I would, it's kind of what you said. Like, before, when you have your first menstrual cycle and all through that whole time, you're really like, you don't belong to you. Your body doesn't belong to
Hmm.
you. Your sexuality doesn't belong to you. Your beauty doesn't belong to you. We live in a society where none of that belongs to you. It belongs to culture, society, family, your husband, boyfriends, whatever, random
Yeah.
dudes on the street. Like that's where it belongs, right? To them. And so we don't get that opportunity to really reclaim all of this for ourselves. And so even like health wise, I was doing things back then like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, this is the size I'm supposed to be. And if I do this
Mm.
workout and eat that, then that's how I'm going to get this body. And when I hit my 40s, I couldn't do the same workouts and I couldn't eat the same way. And I wasn't, and I had gained a lot of weight during the pandemic. And so I was like, oh no, this is what happens. We learn in school, fat, 40, female. And then you get all these diseases, right? I remember learning that in school. And now I think like, how fucked up was that? That we
I know.
right? And so I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my God, that's why I can't get rid of my fat and abdominal fat. The fat distribution shifted from my hips to my abdomen. And then I just started researching, like doing really digging into research. And I'm like, is this true? Like when you hit your 40s, you
Mm-hmm.
just can't lose it. And it's not. Yes, our body may change, but it's also because we live such a sedentary lifestyle. So then I
Yeah.
thought like, okay, if physiologically that's not the entire truth, then what do I need to change in my life to I have to obviously change the way I eat and change the workouts. And once I started doing that, it's like I'm rediscovering my body now in my middle ages. It looks different from the 20s. Like, yeah, like I'm a smaller frame. I can't maintain muscle mass as easily as
Mm-hmm.
I was able to. Like before, I could lift, and then like I'm so built. Like I could lift like just once a week, and I'm
Yeah.
just built. Now I'm not. But now I don't do that kind of lifting anymore. I do a lot of body weight lifting. I don't do HIIT
Mm-hmm.
classes. I do low impact, but I do endurance. I do longer low impact because I can't handle
Mm-hmm.
short bursts of really intense jumping exercises, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really learning like you have to shift the way you live because your body is shifting.
Right. But the shift is going towards like East Asian medicine practices, what they've
Mm-hmm.
always taught, right? They even when you're young, like the idea of a HIIT class or Orange Theory or like F45 or whatever, that would have been like my grandma would be like, "What are you doing?" Like why you're not so because it drains your jing. It drains. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you lose too much sweat in a short amount of time. You're having to really exert yourself for no reason. I mean, not as a way to survive. And so when you're young, you don't see the impact of that drain because it in the moment it replenishes. But then over time it accumulates and it really can leave you drained, which is why when you go try to do it again, like what you noticed, your metabolism doesn't respond the same because it's like, no, I don't want to do that. I need to conserve. Like, I don't
Also,
want you to, yeah.
yeah, also
No, go
it's like
ahead.
it's very stressful for your body. So,
Very stressful.
like as you get older, so obviously I wasn't losing the abdominal fat because my cortisol is too high because I'm
Yeah.
putting on that extra stress onto my body. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How has it
Yeah,
been for
exactly.
you? Like shifting?
Yeah. It's been really, so far, really great. So I had really horrific menstrual cycles, meaning like very heavy, very painful, having to miss school. A couple times I had gone to the ER because I was like certain that there was something else wrong because of how much pain I was in.
Whoa.
Like I thought like, oh, I might concurrently have appendicitis or like uterine rupture. I mean, that's how painful it would be. And I would black out, I would vomit. Like it was horrific. And then when I had my son, I knew that that was going to be a perfect opportunity to reset my cycle. So I purposely got the formula Shenghua San to purge my uterus completely. So right after I gave birth to him, like within 8 hours, because I gave birth at home, it was very easy. I start taking this formula to completely cleanse out and purge my uterus. I took it for a whole week, and what came out, and I'm going to share this for listeners because it's just fascinating. was nuts, because had I not taken that formula, that would be still retained in my body and somehow tried to be either reabsorbed or painfully like expelled over months. And it was like huge, like the size of like my palm, or like chicken cutlets of like clots. It looked like little
Dang.
organs
I'm like,
coming out of my body.
as a metal person, I'm like, oh, that must feel so good. Get it out, purge it out, purge it.
And after that reset my uterus, I have had the most incredible periods. And then now that I'm in and what I mean by that too for people is this like very on time, like 28 days, a nice healthy bleed, not a lot of clots, fresh blood, not a lot of cramps. Really, really nice. And I feel like a nice release when the bleed comes. And
Wait, can
then
I
what's
ask you a quick
happened
question
probably,
about the chicken
yeah,
cutlet organ thing? Um,
it was
do you,
huge.
yeah, and now, so because I always think like, oh, what's going on spiritually? Like, do you think that represented something in your past life that was now finally
Oh,
being
I'm
able to release?
sure. I
Yeah,
mean, there's so much, like many women, we carry a lot of our trauma in our uteruses, our reproductive organs.
yeah,
And I do have a lot of that trauma specifically in that area as well. So I'm sure that that was just like building and building and building and adhesive to my uterine lining for all these years, my God. And then just like, I just remember I thought I was like this. It was almost like a mini placenta,
yeah. That's what I'm imagining it being
like a
like.
sack.
Oh,
But okay, but then the past year, as I feel like I've been entering perimenopause, my cycles have gotten very light. And I like that because I always had really heavy bleeds. And, like having to, when I was in school, like changing pads in between every class. Um, so anyway, so they've gotten really light and it's been really nice. Still right on time, 27, 28, or 29 days. Still like a nice fresh bleed, no clots, but nice. But for me, what I enjoy is it's getting lighter and lighter. So that's how for me, I know that I'm entering and I'm in my perimenopause because the lining's getting thinner and
yeah.
there's less blood there. And I get to see it during my bleed.
Have you noticed shifts in your beauty? Like face,
Yes.
hair. Your hair's looking awesome. Oh my God, it's so
Thank
beautiful.
you.
So thick. I don't know, for those who can't see it, it's like thick, like healthy, gorgeous.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think my 30s was my super awkward decade.
Yeah.
Like I never was awkward before then. And then my 30s was my really awkward decade. Just being honest.
You're like, I was
And
gorgeous my
then
whole life. And then 30s happen. And I don't know.
and I'm making my way out of my 30s now. I'll be 39 this year. And I can see that I'm starting to get back in looking and feeling great starting in my 40s, like leaving this awkward decade, my awkward 30 decade.
Yeah. You know what I
Yeah.
love about my beauty? That I'm just in the beginning, the baby stages. And I think this is where I want to talk more about on TikTok is this transition.
Mm-hmm.
But I really, and you kind of mentioned it about freedom, this feeling of freedom. And I just like, I'm starting at that beginning stages of not giving a fuck about anybody. Like, not that I ever was, especially with men, not that I ever was like the pick me girl. I was never like that. In my 20s, I had
Yeah.
great relationships. My 30s and 40s has been crazy relationships. And like, I feel like that's part of this transition that has to happen. For everyone, it's going to be individual, but it's an
Mm-hmm.
initiation that happens. Like this transition isn't just a transition,
Yeah.
it's an initiation. And if you look at any sort of mythologies or stories, initiations don't come easily. There's things that
Right.
activate it. And for me, career and work has never been an issue. I've always been very blessed in that.
Mm-hmm.
Relationships, however, have been insane. And I think I've learned that, like, I really don't care about what men think of me. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care. I don't care if you
Yeah.
don't like my body. I don't care if you don't like my hair, my makeup. I don't give a fuck. Like, I really don't. And like now I'm at a phase where, like, how can I dress and look in ways that repel them even more? Like, who I care about are like other women, queer people, gay guys. Like, their opinion means so much more. When I get a compliment from this group, right? It
Yeah.
means so much more than some dude saying, "Oh, I like your dress. I like your shoes. I like your hair." I don't care. Shut up. Why are you here? Don't talk to me. But if like like a little, tween girl, or like like a gay man or a gender non-binary person tells me they like my shoes or my pants, I'm like, oh, thanks. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So then don't you feel so much more powerful?
I feel free. I feel
Yeah.
like I am, I like I said, I never was a type of person that would do things for men, but it's still in our consciousness. Like, I remember having this conversation with like this dude in my 20s, and he's like, "Oh, girls who go on girl dates, you guys just like get dressed up to just like get hit on by guys." And I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about? I get dressed up because I want to hang out with my girl and go on a fancy
But
date."
right. I've never had that thought
Never.
ever.
Right? I'm like, "Wow,
Oh
you
my
are
God, that's so
delusional."
funny.
On a completely, yeah, I was flabbergasted. I still remember this conversation, even though it was in our early 20s. But then there are probably women who do that, or, their whole life is very much
Mm.
about getting a man, getting a husband, having that attention from men.
Yeah.
But now that, like, and there are parts of that still ingrained in my consciousness, but now it's like, I really don't care. Like, now dressing up is like, it's literally, it feels very playful to me. Like, I'm back to being a little
Hmm.
girl, or like I was dressing up for fun, or wearing something because it's funny, because it makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Or like,
So
yeah,
that freedom of expression, right? And just choosing for you and what you would authentically want to do and wear without caring about others, particularly men, will think about you,
yeah.
and how that's very freeing.
Yeah, or even like, now what the thing that really hits me is like older women who still are kind of like mean girls kind of thing, you know?
Hmm.
And I'm like, life is so short, or they talk about other girls, like, look at what she's wearing. Look at, like, why would she wear that? That's not, her body doesn't work with that. I'm like, who cares? Who cares?
Yeah.
And also, how are you this old and still thinking like that?
Right.
That makes me so sad. That makes me like,
Right.
I don't want to be like, because once you hit this age, I feel like you really understand, like, life is so short. So if it's so short, why waste your energy on all this other stuff? Why not like spend your energy on like finding a piece of clothing that makes you laugh hysterically and then think like, I'm gonna wear this because it's so funny.
No, I agree. Something that I've also been loving, and I don't know if you get to see this very much in Seattle, but there feels to be this no bra movement in all age ranges. And I think that that's cool because I know like older women like traditionally would kind of go without bras over time because they're like they're not comfortable. I don't really need them anymore. But I've been seeing younger and younger girls doing the same thing. And I'm like, whoa, they're already ahead of it. And I'm hoping that this means that as we keep going in our culture, that we're going to see more and more even younger women, whether or not they're in their second spring period, start already reclaiming this freedom and their own genuine identity without having to answer to others except for themselves. I don't know, but I also just feel like this no, do you see it in Seattle, the no
Oh
bra?
yeah. I mean, it's been like that for like years here. Because I think it's like
But
such
in
a
and with the
granola.
youth too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but now is it like for me, I'm seeing it a lot more mainstream, like
I mean, here you
non-granola.
you can like it's quite common to just like see people like with their nipples out, or even like a man in a G-string walking down the street. It's like it's a very free culture up here in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay. Well, maybe my Hawaii may be a little bit more conservative
Conservative.
because there's so many East Asian cultures here, and in particular Japanese.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was something that left an impression on me. But what are some other fun things? Because I feel like this is such an exciting thing that you and I are talking
Yeah.
about, and we're hoping to like open it up more to the community and hear from others and see how we can all really flourish in this time. What are some other things you're looking forward to in your perimenopause and in your second spring?
I'm really like having fun exploring this baby stage of not giving a fuck. Like I'm still like a little baby in that because I talk to my friends who are older and they're like really in it. I'm like, wow, that's cool. That's really cool. But even then, like it's allowing me to be so accepting of people. So like even like my idea like of masculinity, right? It's these are such social constructs that like we've been
Mm-hmm.
taught to believe are true. Like masculinity looks like this, femininity looks like that. And what's really helped me is understanding more of it energetically. Rather than masculine, it's like yang looks like this, yin looks like that. But if we're talking about it
Mm-hmm.
in terms of gender specifics, like I was watching, who was I watching? Maybe it was a TikTok or something. It was a young man. And he was like getting ready and he's straight, he's cis, and he was like putting on makeup. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something I've been seeing in the younger generation for
Yes.
men, right? It's normal. I mean, we've been kind of seeing a little bit of that, like skincare, especially like Asian dudes. Like skincare is like
Yeah,
normal.
yeah.
Getting perms, like it's been like that, like waves. But makeup, like a little bit of concealer, a little bit of blush, gloss, and I was like, this is turning me on. Like, put on a little makeup for us when you go outside. Look
Yeah.
decent, like just a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. And I was like, I'm really into this. I'm like, could I find a man my age who would do this? Because it's like, it's just adding that little bit of effort. And so, this
Yeah.
idea that makeup is just for women, it's so yeah, it's not like a thing anymore. So I think the other thing I'm really, I guess, enjoying is like really deconstructing what these energies look like, or gender stories and narratives, like stuff like that. It's becoming much more fluid, and I think it's more fun when it's like that.
Yeah. Where do you see yourself going? Or are you also gonna be more fluid? Like when it comes to the yin yang, in the past with you, we've talked about you wanting to cultivate more of these yin, soft, sensual aspects. But as it, particularly when it comes to the second spring, where do you see yourself?
Um, I think it's a different type of yin because, we talk about second spring, right? But also in East metaphysics, what happens is that we enter this phase called the white tiger phase,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it's the first menarche, it's you enter the red phoenix phase. And that makes so much sense because you go through this constant death and rebirth cycle. Like
Yeah.
every social role that you have to take on, you're the daughter, then the girlfriend, then the wife, then the mom. Like it's a death, rebirth, death, rebirth. And then you get to menopause and you become the white tiger. And like with Korean culture, the white tiger, like Korea was known as the land of tigers before Japan occupied it and killed all the tigers because they wanted to erase all of Korean history. But all of our mythologies, paintings, sculptures, there's so many tigers. Our origin story involves a
Mm-hmm.
tiger. Me as a Korean is working with a tiger. Just, but like tigers is a big thing, but the white tiger is something very special because out of all the tigers, how the story goes, how they become the white tigers, they go through a spiritual enlightenment and they become the enlightened one.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. And if you think about like red phoenix versus tiger, like red phoenix, yeah, if you saw a phoenix, it'd be like, whoa, it'd be so, because
Yeah.
it's like bright and like really flashy. But I bet if you saw a white tiger, it evokes a very different feeling. And for me, it's
Mm-hmm.
like a sense of respect and allure, but like also kind of fear, but also like it really stops you in the track, right? Phoenix,
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I want to get it, I want to catch it or something. But white tiger is like, whoa. And I don't know what that's going to look like for me, but I keep thinking, I'm like, that's how I see some older women who are like that, or older people with uterus like that. They have this
Mm-hmm.
really seductive allure.
Yeah. What do you think the white tiger part remind? You know what's cool, obviously obvious to us and most people is like the red phoenix, the bleed, the blood.
Yeah,
And then the white tiger, it's like the absence of the bleed and the blood.
it's
And
pure
that of
though.
course is so, yeah, right. And yeah, and like purification, cleansing. So but then this also made me think about going gray
Mm-hmm.
and letting the hair come out gray or white. What do you think for yourself? Is that something that you're interested in doing?
Maybe later, but like I think of it more superficially. My skin tone doesn't work well with like that color. I think my skin color has to change a little bit, and I think it will over time for it
Mm-hmm.
to work with that color. And I like stark whiteness. Like I think that transitional period because I'm superficial. Like I just it has nothing to do with aging. It's literally like oh the color wouldn't work with my skin tone right now. But like I have grays now. It's only mostly because I'm just lazy and like I just Pacific Northwest. We're always wearing a hat, so in the wintertime, like you see more grays in my hair because I'm not coloring it. Um,
Okay, got
but
it.
but my mom is all gray and white, but her skin color is very different. She's more white than me, and so it looks great with her. Um, I don't know. What about you? You stopped dyeing your
So
hair a while
my
ago, right?
Yeah, I used to highlight it because my hair, this is my natural color, but it's quite dark. And for someone who's mixed, it's on the darker end for someone who's mixed. So I used to always highlight it and lighten it because I wanted that like mixed Hawaii sun-kissed aesthetic that I
Mm-hmm.
thought looked nice. And I'm naturally pretty fair, so when I would highlight my hair, it would look like I was, tanner. But my mom has like that jet black, like that blue black type
Mm-hmm.
of a hair. And then even though my dad was blonde, like a white blonde, and now he's all white and gray, his sisters and his mother have very dark brown hair, even though they're pure Caucasian. So, anyway, my mom isn't gray yet, and she's mid 60s. And my
Wow, she has good
grandma,
Jing.
yeah. And then my dad's mom, who's I think about 90, she's like barely gray, like a
What?
fourth of her hair. Yeah. Her kids are now looking like her siblings
Oh,
because her kids are graying
yeah.
but she's not.
Oh my God.
So I have like very few white or gray hairs that will spring up here and there, but I haven't really gone gray. It doesn't come in regularly. They'll be like, I don't know, at most five, and they're like all right here. You don't really notice them. So all of that to say that I don't know what I would do when it really comes out. And I don't even know when that's gonna be based on like what I just shared about my family. However, I'm planning to not dye my hair anymore because I'm really trying to keep it healthy
Mm-hmm.
and natural. So when that time comes, if I'm still feeling the same way, I think it might be nice to see what I would look like with that gray hair. But I think my skin tone go fine with it. Because I have my dad's family skin tone, I feel like, and they're all gray, like I said, except for my grandma, but his two sisters and him are. So yeah, I think I'll let it happen.
The one thing I do think about is length of hair, actually, because
Yeah.
women get to a certain age and then they decide to chop it all off
Hmm.
for many reasons. And I keep thinking, like, I want to still have long hair. Like,
Hmm.
also, yeah, again, superficial. My face wouldn't work with short hair. But but when I see older women with long hair, I'm like, wow, you rarely see
Yeah, it's
that.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I think that helps. That really helps people look younger. Well, that's it for today. If you like this episode, please share it with a friend and give us a review to let us know how you've been navigating your beauty journey. You can also follow us on Instagram at Beauty Birthright Pod and say hello.
To learn more about face reading, Batsa astrology, and seasonal living, head over to elementalarchetypes.com and follow me at Elemental Archetypes.
And to explore beauty through your own hands, visit yangface.com and follow at yang.face for tutorials, Chinese medicine theory, and candid thoughts on cultural appreciation.